The most forbidden comment that no agent wants to hear at the end of it is, can you leave me your card? Or we have to think about it, or we don't make any decisions. We have to sleep on it. That's just what we do. That's one of the biggest BS statements that you can get. That means to me, I didn't do a good job.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Silvero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Also, make sure you've subscribed to our text notifications for episode releases and agent resources. All you have to do is send the letters LIA to the number 82149. That's 82149 and a message with the letters LIA. Thanks for joining us for another episode. On today's show, we dive into the lies that people tell us as life insurance agents, why they do it, and what you should do to move past and uncover the truth. Let's jump in. What are some of the common lies that you've heard at the door?
The main one for me is I already have insurance.
I'm busy.
Today is not a good day.
I don't feel good.
I have doctor's appointments.
My grandkids are here. It's not a good time.
I can meet with you. Today's not good. I can meet with you tomorrow. Those are all door ones typically.
Okay. Are there some that you get on the phone or?
Yeah, I was just looking for information. If we've got to do that, I'd rather just get some information by phone, and then I can call you back if I'm interested.
Or just mail. Mail.
Can you just mail me some information?
Yeah,
I just want to review the information. Yeah, this week is extremely busy. It's very difficult to get us both together if you need us together. So that's probably not going to happen.
I'm on the other line.
Here's one we've all done at some point in our lives. The phone's breaking up. Can't hear you. Call you later.
So you get them all, and these are really stalls. They're not objections. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference between an objection and a stall, right? A stall is difficult to move past because you have to address the untruth of it, right?
Yeah.
An objection is I need to know more information, and so I need to address something foundational that my product or service will solve for you, that can get us to the point where you actually want to move forward with me. But a stall is an interesting position because it may be, my wife's not home, my spouse is not home. They come out the door and they're opening the door just barely enough so they can squeeze out, and they're squeezing out, and they're shutting the door behind you. Well, I'm not really prepared for guests right now. So what does that tell you? They've either got some people in their house that they don't want you to meet, or their house is upside down and they're embarrassed to let you see it. But the statement that they've made, yes, it has some truth, but there's a lot of untruth behind it as well.
Yeah.
These are like misdirections. What they're doing is they're deflecting because, they don't want to address this now with you on your terms. They want to try to reframe it somehow.
Right. That stall is a good word too, because that is exactly what it does. It freezes. It freezes an agent. You got shot with an ice ray gun. Boom. And you're standing there flat-footed and
So these moments where they stall out, do they happen just at the door, or are there also other times where, these people might be lying or stretching or bending the truth? Or
Really, a lot of it, you will get them anytime you do a tie-down or a mini-close throughout your sit or your presentation. Anytime that it could be a small close, you will get some of these stalls for whatever reason, and it's never the actual excuse or lie or stall that they give you. And a lot of them can come towards the close and throughout the presentation.
I don't know if you're going to get them at every time you tie down, because sometimes you're checking the temperature, and when you ask them if they're with you, they agree, and so you can move forward. But I think if you don't do frequent tie downs or checking, you will get them. But sometimes when you make a request for this micro agreement, it gives you an opportunity to have something raised. Sometimes that's going to be one of these weird statements. Something like, we need to talk it over. Like, we're not ready. So I'm assuming, Mr. Smith, if we can find something affordable for you and your wife to take care of this, that you'd like to go ahead and at least apply. Well, we're going to need to talk it over after we get the pricing.
Yeah.
Like a new agent is just like,
Frozen.
Yeah, they got frozen with the ice ray gun. Is that what it's called, an ice ray gun?
Well, we can call it whatever we want.
Or, like I need to talk to my children. Mm-hmm. That's always a famous one, especially in the senior market for final expense. That's famous.
Famous. Infamous.
Yeah, we should walk in with a sign that says, do you need to talk this over with your children before I go any further?
Yes.
Like, it would take their power away, wouldn't it?
I think so. I can't afford anything. The funny thing is sometimes you get this even as you're opening the presentation. I can't afford anything. Oh, I have savings set aside. I've got some money set aside for that.
And they believe that's going to cover.
Yeah.
I believe that's 100%.
Yep. And it could be $1,500 in the bank.
Yeah, they've got $8,000 there, and that's going to cover both their funerals.
Yes.
And medical
And
costs.
19
Provided
52.
nothing happens that requires any money to be used out of that. My son has a policy on me that to cover this, I think.
That's a good one.
My kids have a policy on me.
I mean, the truth is, like, when you're getting into homes, more times than not, you do find out that these are lies because they don't have anything in place, or they did years ago but had to let it go for a reason, or had to borrow money on a policy so it's no longer there. That they aren't getting ready to leave the house, that they don't have a doctor's appointment, or the doctor's appointment's at 4:30 and it's 10 in the morning right now.
Correct.
So there's all kinds. Oh, Miss Jones, I thought you said you had to leave. Oh, no, we're fine. Yeah, that's tomorrow. I got my days confused. You start to reveal that these were, that they were all defense mechanisms, that the truth reveals itself. And you have to understand that and be in enough sits or go through enough door knocks to understand that what they're giving you at the door really isn't true and really isn't the situation. And once you understand that with experience, you're able to move past, and as soon as you get in the home that they're not doing anything. They're just like all the other families you've been with, and you just hang out and build that trust and move through the process, and the truth will come out.
So why do people lie? I mean, let's get down to the core of it.
The first thing is they just don't trust you. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a stranger, right?
I don't know you. I don't like you.
Exactly.
Bam.
It's very offensive to me, Chris. That's strong language.
Which is why he says, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't want to tell you that, so they say something else. Mm-hmm. But that's really what it is.
I don't like people in glasses. I don't like people with beards. I don't like green eggs and ham.
I don't like people showing up unannounced.
Yeah.
I don't like people on my property. Did you read my sign?
Yes.
I even think that would be a lie as well. I mean, yes, they don't like it, but for what reason? And the truth might be is because their house isn't the cleanest that they would like it to be, and they're not comfortable, or they're embarrassed to have a guest over. So the front may be it's not a good time. The second wave might be I don't like you, I don't like people. But that's really not the case. They're embarrassed and they don't want to be judged, and they don't want to feel that way with someone in their home. They don't want someone other to see the way they live, or how they make decisions, or how they take care of their family members.
Jeffrey Gitomer, Little Red Book of Sales.
Oh.
You've probably heard of that book. He says, if they like you and they believe you and they trust you and they have confidence in you, then they may buy from you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of prerequisites that you got to cross over before you can get to the they might buy from you. And so the smoke screens that are going up are as a result primarily of those issues. It's a likability, it's a believability, it's a trust, it's a confidence.
Yeah.
It goes back to those 5 real reasons again, but you're getting them all up front. And so people, they don't understand how the process is going to go. They assume that everything's going to go as planned, And interestingly, I want to point out for our listeners is that this podcast and our point of view or our perspective on this is on working a lead program. So these people have requested information.
Right.
So I want to remind you, our listeners, of that.
Yeah.
These people have actually requested information. They filled out a form that they got in the mail and sent it back saying, can I get some additional information on this?
Right.
They filled out a form online and said, yes, I need information about mortgage protection plans or final expense planning. And they submitted it. And then we follow up, and then they tell us lies. So, like, think about that context.
Right.
I think human nature, though, has a lot to do with this. People procrastinate. That's why we say we're busy all the time when, we spend 5 hours staring at nothing and in 1 hour bust because we have to. I mean, that's just people procrastinate.
I think for a lot of people, I don't want our listeners to think that everybody responds this way, because they don't. But you will generally, maybe 6 to 8 times. I'll go 60 to 80%.
I would be prepared.
You said 80%.
Yeah.
I'll go 60 to 80%
Yeah,
of the time.
I think that's a good
You're going to
number.
get some kind of deflection.
Yeah.
It's a deflection because they're not quite ready to handle it head on. And, they maybe have had a bad sales experience in the past, or they don't understand what this process is going to be today,
Yes.
or why you're even standing on their porch. They thought they were going to get something in the mail, or they've not considered what this process looks like, or
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different variables there, and they're used to being in control, and immediately you pull them out of their comfort zone and are now confronting them. So I guess the
gonna
question
happen.
is, what do we do with all that?
Yeah.
What do our listeners do? Because as a new agent, you just got frozen by Frozone.
Yep.
and it can stop you in your tracks, or you can learn a few things that'll allow you to move forward.
Let's talk through a couple of these, or a few of these, okay? The I am busy. I
think I'm busy is probably one, or this is not a good time, or I'm busy.
We'll lump those together.
Yeah, it kind of comes from the same place. Today's not a good day. Now's not a good time. I'm busy. Those are all kind of coming from the same place. So you can kind of address those together. Very simply, I'm going to say, I understand. This is only going to just take a few moments. Let me get your stuff, and I'll be right back.
Yeah.
So I'm addressing it. Mm-hmm. I'm diffusing it by saying, this is only going to take a few minutes.
Right.
Therefore, I'm acknowledging your busyness,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to impose, but I'm still going to get your
There's
information,
your
and I'll be right back.
Ask isn't the right word. I don't like using ask.
No, me either.
But it's part of that A thing.
I almost want to say assume.
Assume's
right
better.
there.
I would say assume.
Assume to move forward, right?
Yes.
Acknowledge, address, and assume.
Yeah.
So it's almost better than that first 3A,
Yeah.
So the acknowledgement of it allows them to be heard without feeling offended. You diffuse by letting them know it's not going to take an inordinate amount of time. And like Zach said earlier, in most cases, their busyness might be comprised of, I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon, my show is on now, I was getting ready to cook breakfast, and I'm not dressed. So now's not a good time, or I'm busy. So by addressing those things and letting them know it's not going to take a long time, but you're still going to go get their information and be right back, you've kind of taken the power away from all that, because you've shown them mutual respect, you've addressed their concern, but you're moving forward.
Yeah. And I would say something very similar, like Mr. Smith, I totally understand. Just like I know you're real busy, and I have a full schedule too. I have a whole bunch of people to see, so I'm putting value on my time as well. This is just going to take a couple minutes. I'll go get your stuff. I'll be right back. Turn around. As I'm saying this, as I'm turning, walking away to go get their stuff, but validating, raising the value of my time as well. And then moving forward.
Yeah, like Austin, you said, you can get flat-footed. Sometimes agents will make that statement, and then they'll stand there flat-footed
look
and wait for permission. That's a bad thing, right? So I guess the last part of that is, acknowledge, address, acknowledge, address, and assume.
Yes.
If the assuming part is, I'm turning and walking away while I'm nodding my head, saying, I'm going to go get your information, I'll be right back. Instead of standing there waiting, is that okay that I go get your stuff? You don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with booking appointments on the phone. Well, let's go ahead and get you scheduled in then for Thursday around 7. And if you have a challenge with it later, you can call me back and we can reschedule, okay? As opposed to saying, so what time is going to be good? Well, no times. No times are good.
Sometimes you actually have, it's a true excuse. Like maybe they are busy. How do you determine the difference? Well, for me, if they have their coat on, their keys in their hand, the purse, and they're opening the door as I'm walking up, or the car's running, those are good indicators that maybe they are busy or maybe they do have to get the grandkids. But the same thing applies, Chris. It's exactly what you said. In that situation, I still want to let them know who I am and why I'm here. And when I am going to set the appointment, I still want to flip through my leads and let them know, hey, I'm busy as well. My time is valuable as well. I have all these people I need to see. I'm going to see if I can fit you in as my last stop of the day or my first stop tomorrow morning. Because you almost want to give the impression of you're the doctor and you barely have any appointments. And if they miss on this opportunity, that they may not get another opportunity. And I know they've waited sometimes 3, 4, 5 weeks to get a response for this information. So they don't want to miss on that. The worst thing you can do is say, okay, when are you going to be back? Or let me know when it's available time for you. And then they're going to give you a time of when they're not going to be home, right? So and I'm sure we've all been porched, or we call them disappointments, because they're going to tell you the exact time they want you to come, so they're not there.
So they can be ready not to see you.
Yeah. And as we're going through these, I think it's important to note a complaint is not an objection. Like if their response is that while you go get your stuff, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because it will change.
Yeah, and that's your job as a professional.
Matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, your job as a professional. Interesting. Here's a little war story. I was finishing up a week. We were in an area near Warsaw, Indiana. I think Pierceton, Indiana is the name of the little town. I sold every lead in Pierceton. Every one of them purchased. It was like nobody was saying no. It was phenomenal. I felt like I could not get a no that week. And I was like, I got to go see one more. And there was one more lead in that area, and I didn't pay attention to where it was, and I was heading up there at 3 to find it. And then I realized that it was like 35 or 40 minutes north of where we were, and I was supposed to be heading home because we were leaving to go out of town the next day with my family. Should I go? Should I not? Well, I go up there, and the lady's not home. And I did a cloverleaf across the street with a guy who was kind of looking out of his screen porch. I ended up getting a sit with that gentleman. I was writing up a policy for him when his neighbor came home. And now, had I not done that cloverleaf, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to see her. I'd already left a sticker on her door, a delivery notice. And so when I was done there, I went back over to her house after and talked to her and said, yeah, you'd request some information. I'm kind of on my last day, and I'm finishing up my week. I know this is important to you. Let me go get your stuff. Well, now's not a good time. I've got to get my granddaughter from school here in just a little bit. So now what's going through my mind is, well, I'm not coming back.
Right.
This is as far north as I'm going in Indiana for the next 6 or 8 weeks. You're at the end of my week. You're the farthest north of all the leads that I have, and I've got to be on the road here in about an hour and a half in order for me to make it home, to pack, to be on a flight at, to get up at 4:30 or 5 to get on a flight to leave town. All this was going through my mind when she's saying, well, now's not a good time. I got to pick up my granddaughter. So what do I say? I just did the same thing. No worries. This is only going to just take a few minutes. Let me go grab your stuff real quick, and I'll be right back. And so she watches me walk off. And now I already had a little rapport because I was helping her neighbor. And I said, interestingly, I went across and I was able to help your neighbor out, take care of this while I was waiting for you. So I'm thankful I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got to meet you. I'm coming back up to the house. She goes, this is really not a good time. Now I've got the stuff. Now she's giving it to me again. This is really not a good time. I've got to pick up my granddaughter, and I'm not ready to have company. So now I got the second one. Not ready to have company could mean a lot of things. Her house is upside down. She's a hoarder. Maybe there's company. I really don't know. And as I said, oh, no worries at all. So I then diffused the situation because I wanted to make it as easy as possible for her to sit with me. I said, why don't we just sit right out here on the porch? How many times have you guys done that?
Oh, yeah.
It was in the summer months. Why don't we just sit right out here on the porch? And there was one chair on the porch. I said, why don't we sit out here on the porch? There was one chair. Yeah. And I said, why don't you go ahead and sit there? And I literally walked off the end of the porch and looked around the side of the house because because of how many times I've been doing this, there's usually another chair somewhere. And sure enough, when I looked around the side of the house, there was a desk chair with roller wheels on the bottom of it sitting beside the house. It's the weirdest thing. I was thinking I was going to find a lawn chair, another patio thing, some type of thing. Anyway, I dropped that on the porch, and 10, 15 minutes into this thing, she goes, I really got to wrap this up because I got to go get my granddaughter. And I looked at her and I said, I know this is really important to you. Is there anyone else that can pick up your granddaughter so I can finish this? Because if we don't take care of this today, I don't know when I'm going to be coming back to see you. And I know this is really important to you.
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And she said, well, my son is in the house. That's why I didn't want to go in there. He's sleeping in the room. And she goes, let me hold on for a minute. So she goes and starts yelling for him. Can you go get him? Well, why do I have to go get him? Just, I need you to do it. And I put value on our time together. And I said, I have a limited time. I know this is really important to you. Even if you go get her, I'll wait a little while for you to come back. She goes, no, I'll see if he can go. And so she then called her son out, and he went. An hour later, I wrote a policy for her. I'm writing a policy on her son who's in the house, and I did a children's policy for the granddaughter that she was picking up. But now's not a good time. I have to go get my granddaughter, and I don't want you to come inside my house.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be ready to be able to address those things head on, put value on your time, take the pressure off the client, address the situation as it is in front of you, and move forward with confidence. So that's one that popped into my mind, and that finished out my week. And that closing streak, I'm like, I cannot lose this week.
That can change your entire week.
Oh, yeah.
That can change. And I know so many agents have, like, I know they're listening, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I could say that. I don't know. Well, what is it costing you not to? And
everything.
Well, it's costing the client and you.
Right.
And if you really believe in what you do, you can say those things with confidence. And it matters. It makes a difference.
Here's one that's similar to yours, Roger. My grandkids are here. What do you do in that situation?
That's a tough one because you have to determine if it's a true distraction that you can just diffuse, or if it's better off for you to schedule a time that the grandkids aren't there. Sometimes you're able to see about putting the kids into a playroom and turn a movie on for them. Or is there somebody else that can watch them for a few minutes or a brief period of time? If all else fails, I don't want to, and you can determine that at the front, because I don't want to get too far into the meat to where they're making the decision if they have value on this or not, or if it's worth it to them or not, and then try to reschedule. You need to make that determination probably in the first 5 to 10 minutes of building trust with them and getting to know who they are and how often they see them and building that trust. And you can make that distinction as, hey, am I going to be able to get through what I need to with all these grandkids here or not? Most of the time, there's somebody else in the house that can kind of distract them. But every now and then there isn't, and I would suggest, rescheduling. Show them that you are busy and you have a lot of people to see, but you want to make sure that you can help her and you're going to try to fit her in your schedule. That's usually the best case if you can't diffuse the situation or eliminate some of the distractions.
The logic behind the statement. Remember, educating yourself and consider the logic of the statement. So the reality may be that the grandkids live there.
Yeah.
So, but the smoke screen is, I can't do this because the grandkids are here. And Zach's exactly right about creating environments, crafting an environment where maybe you do turn on, they're watching a show anyway. They may be watching the show anyway. Great, we'll leave the kids here. Let's go sit in the kitchen. Taking control of that situation and moving forward. But I think what you said was great about keeping your finger on the pulse of being aware of how much an issue that could be where, it could derail the conversation. If it isn't temporary, maybe they only watch them till 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. or 5 p.m., something like that.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's like, hey, can we turn down that television set, or can we shut that off? I feel like I'm speaking loudly to you and I don't want you to think I'm yelling at you. Or you maybe have to ask, that one house, Chris, that you were in Louisiana and people were getting hungry and you felt like they were getting restless. You said, hey, let me go ahead and order some pizza.
Yeah.
And you became the hero all of a sudden, and then everybody's feeding their face while you're helping the family. And, so you got to know that things are going to happen, but then be able to prioritize and put importance on why you're there and try to find a solution so that you can sit down and have a conversation.
I think on those front side conversations on these specific smoke screens or the lying, quote fingers lying, the reoccurring theme here is putting value on your time, your leads, and the products that you're serving people with. I remember I was in Louisiana, and a gentleman opened the door on his trailer and said, "We have company." And all I'm thinking is, I know this is important. I'm not going to be back here ever in my life, probably. I will never be back in this area. So I have to have this conversation. I didn't say that
because you were there training, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was training somebody, and the agent was shocked that we got in, and we sat down with the gentleman, and then we're talking, and the guest or the friend that they had is a friend who comes over all the time, like they're at their house all the time, talking to the wife. Told her what we were doing. They all sat around, and we got the husband and the wife taken care of, and she sat in and listened. She didn't want coverage at that time. That was fine. The agent could follow up with her at a different time. No worries. But that smoke screen, I mean, what is reality? If I wasn't prepared for that, again, an agent walks away like, what's with these leads?
Yeah, you got to, again, consider the logic of the statement. Mm-hmm. What's the reality behind that?
Yeah.
And how do I assess it and move forward?
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Now, if it was their son who was visiting from Florida, and he had brought the grandkids, and they only have another 5 hours, or something like that. They're leaving in the next couple of days. It's going to be an
ready
issue.
To sit down and have dinner with their son who just came in.
I get it. Like, that's a more realistic issue. That's fine. That's the reality. Then I might have to set an appointment.
The most forbidden comment that no agent wants to hear at the end of it is, "Can you leave me your card?" Or "We have to think about it," or "We don't make any decisions. We have to sleep on it. That's just what we do." Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest BS statements that you can get. That means, to me, I didn't do a good job. I missed on something. I didn't build enough value, and most of the time, the true issue here is a pricing issue. Because in anything in life, if you're going to the store, and has anybody ever bought anything, like impulse buy, that you just went to the store and all of a sudden there's a crazy sell on something and you bought like 8 pairs of Gap socks, Chris?
Almond Joy.
Almond Joy.
Dude, if there's Almond Joy, it's like a siren singing.
So that's different.
Me.
That's different, though. You're saying if there's one period on the shelf. I'm saying if there's an item that is cheap enough to make.
That's an impulse.
If there's
buy,
one
man.
on the shelf hanging on for dear life,
It doesn't matter.
It needs me. It needs my help.
I'm talking about having
Not
something that is based upon price. That's like, wow, I need to buy that because it's such a good deal. Or, wow, they never go on sale. Look how cheap this is. You don't necessarily
That
need
Angel's
it.
Envy?
Exactly.
That was for $80.
80,
There you go.
exactly.
I saw
$80.
7 bottles of it the other day for $80.
You almost buy it
I almost bought all
because of
7
the
of
deal. So when you're in the home, and I was talking to an agent one time. He's actually one of the top producers in the industry. But this is when he was first starting out, and we were debriefing, and he was just telling me about his sit and walking through everything, and he told me that he wanted to think about it. And I was like, okay. I was like, so what prices did you end up showing him? And then he showed me, or he told me the prices he's laid out for this guy. And it didn't quite all add up, because hearing the sit and hearing this guy's background and his income, and then also the need and what he wanted to take care of, and it didn't really translate to the prices that were displayed. Not that they were wrong or anything, but what had happened is the agent did a great job building value, but the guy was shown prices that he wasn't able to afford, or maybe he was only able to afford one of the 3 prices that were there. So really, that's not enough. That's not enough information to go off of. So when they only have one option, it's not enough. They need more options. When they have 7 options, that's too many options. They can't decide. But you really need 3 legit options that they can afford all 3, but it also makes sense to the value and what they need to take care for their family. So as we were talking and going through this sit, I said, I think more than anything, because he was trying to wrap his head around why it didn't happen. He's like, man, we had good trust. We laughed. We was a great dude. We connected, and he just had to think about it. And so we talked about it, and I told him a couple prices that I would like him to look at, and he went right back there. And guess what he did? Boom, he got an app. Now, he didn't have to think about it. He didn't have to wait a week. They didn't sleep on it. They didn't say, give me your card again. That was all smoke. That was a smoke screen. It was a deflection because they felt that it wasn't possible based upon what was shown. And I find that to be a lot of the case for agents out there, especially new agents, when they're having a hard time matching the prices. And hopefully we cover this on a podcast at some point, but being able to price things right, but matching the prices with the need and the value that's in the home. And most times when you get that, I want to think about it, is you're blowing them out of the water. To reevaluate, to show them something more reasonable, to show them something smaller, even if it's less than they need, but it's what they can afford, to find that sweet spot for them. And you'll be amazed that those forbidden, cringing objections of give me your card, we'll sleep on it, we'll think about it, is not an option. Because if the deal is good enough, you're not going to think about it. You're going to act on it because you're going to feel like it's going to go away.
I want to affirm or confirm that it's not always just about the price, because if there's no value, we talked about 2 things in there. You said value, you said pricing, and I want to make sure our listeners hear that if there is no value, there is no price that's low enough. So you can go all the way down. Sometimes you'll see stuff on sale and you'll think that is cheap as dirt, but you still walk away because you don't have any value on it, right? You have to, number 1, ensure that there is value there, and that takes time, trust, identifying need, and then presenting solutions that meet the need, but then also meeting it on the price point, because they can see tremendous value, but if it's out of their price point range, they want to graciously bow out by saying, I want to think about it, or can we'll talk it over. And you just need to go one more step and say, I want to be sensitive to your budget and your affordability, so let's make sure we find something that addresses that as well. Am I in the range, or would you like to see some additional options? And you can have a frank conversation about what is possibly the elephant in the room that you're not addressing. You just think, well, they can afford this. And so to affirm Zach's statements is value and pricing sometimes are the issues when it comes to I want to think about it. Sometimes it's a trust issue. You haven't done the pre-work to get to the close. What are some of the other ones we're covering here?
I think the other one, we'll talk about this door one, and I'll let Zach talk about that, is I already have life insurance. Can we talk about, as you're talking about it, talk about the truth? What is the truth, the real truth behind it, and then how you approach that?
Well, that can be a number of things. A lot of times you get into the home, find out the need, and like I said earlier, they used to have life insurance, or they did, but they just lapsed, or it just canceled. And they don't tell you that at the door. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I used to have life insurance, but it just canceled last month." I've never heard that at the door, right?
It's always, I already have life insurance.
Exactly. And they know they just canceled it, and that's why they filled out the card. So the important thing to remember is, like I said, don't think about what they say at the door. Think about the reasons why their family needs coverage and the reasons why they filled it out. We know response rates aren't 50, 80, 100%. And a lot of times they're less than 1, sometimes less than 2, in that range. So, but it's always for a reason. There's a reason attached to everything. So it could be, a lot of times they lost somebody close to them, and they realized, oh crap, I need to make sure this is taken care of for my family. Or they recently have some health issues go on with themselves, and they're like, oh crap, I need to make sure my family's taken care of. It's usually one of those two reasons that really spark the interest. Honestly, Austin, how many days of the week do you think about dying?
Not many.
Not many. But if you lost a family member, and not saying I hope it never happens, but if you lost a family member that's really close to you, especially if they're close to your age, because a lot of the clients, they lose people close to their age, you're thinking, oh, wow, he did or didn't have that prepared for his family. I need to do the same now. I'm starting my life, just bought a home. These are things I need to start thinking about. But when you're getting that reaction at the door, if they really thought they had everything taken care of and they were fully protected with the exact right plan, by the way, everybody has the best coverage and the right plan at the best price you could possibly get already. But if they really thought that way, why in the world would they ever consider adding, consider getting a different, looking into it, whatever they want to say? They would never fill out another card. So they were curious about something. So the magic at any door objection, especially this one, is to keep them curious long enough to build trust with them to see if we're actually able to help them. And that doesn't happen at the door. The worst thing you could possibly say is, oh, great, who do you have? How much are you paying? What company is that with? Do you know why that's the worst, Austin?
Because they're not getting to the why they got it.
Because it's all attached to a beneficiary's name. It doesn't matter what plan they have, good or bad. What matters to them is that plan's to take care of my daughter, Jenny, because I love her so much. Now, the moment you say that's a bad plan, they're paying too much, it's not a good company, it's the wrong type of coverage, they're not hearing that. What they're hearing is, you really don't love Jenny and you really did something bad for her and you set up a terrible plan that's not going to be there for her. That's what
you're
they're
attacking
hearing.
their motive and their execution.
Exactly.
And their intention.
So none of that works. The important thing to do there is to celebrate that they have insurance. Celebrate that they think they have insurance, right? Because what that lets them know is, I'm happy that you value insurance because that means you love your family and you care about them. So that's great. Just about everybody we see has some type of coverage in place. These are actually state-regulated final expense programs. They're a little bit different, but I'm going to get your stuff and I'll be right back. Insurance is not a cover-all plan as well. So it doesn't matter if they have insurance or not. It's what it's used for, what it's intended to cover. That doesn't make it a good plan or a bad plan or the only plan you have is the best plan. You need to find out that information, what they're trying to cover, what they want them to use it for, why it's important to them, and then you're able to determine if that plan covers what they need. They may have a term plan and you may be in the final expense market and you're like, oh, that's terrible, you don't need term, it's garbage. But it might be 15 years left on it and they get a 15-year mortgage.
Correct.
And it's very cheap and very affordable. So we might be in the home looking at adding additional coverage to take care of another need, a legacy, debts, liabilities, a final expense, burials, cremations, like permanent needs, where the other one we might want to keep there. So you can't determine that or ask that at the door. Those are conversations you absolutely do not want to have. You just know that, hey, they value insurance, they love their family, and they buy insurance. They're buyers.
And they requested more information
for some reason. And they still requested more information. That's the magic thing about running a lead program. We're not randomly knocking on doors. If we did, we'd still be successful because we have all the products to be able to help anybody anywhere. But you have to remember that.
The other thing is that you're going to get this objection in the sit as well. So this is not just a door objection. Because as you get into your presentation, they're going to say, well, I already have insurance for that. I have, it may come out in several ways. I already bought a policy for that. I already have a funeral plan. I already have a funeral policy. I already have a burial policy. They may say, I already have insurance through work that covers that. So you're going to get that objection or stall or deflection in several ways, and it's going to come out there as well. Again, please know that just because they say that they have insurance, one revealing question as you move through that, and well, first of all, I'm going to commend them. Well, congratulations on that. And then we're going to continue our education process. Now, coming back to that comment you made earlier about the insurance that you have, what company was that with? And do you know what type of life insurance that was?
Yeah.
And a very revealing statement is the kind that pays when you die.
Yes.
That's a very revealing statement. That lets you know as the agent that they really don't know what type of coverage they have. And so a great way to move past that would be to simply say, now, before I make any recommendations, I want to ensure that we're doing the very best we can to cover all the needs for your family. one of the things I would like to do is just take a look at the coverage you do have to see if that's covering all the liability, what type of benefits it has, if they ever run out, because sometimes benefits run out on other plans that we may not be aware of, and it's in the fine print sometimes. And so taking a second look, Mrs. Smith, like a client that we've just helped last week, once we reviewed their policy, there was significant language in the policy that basically revealed to us that it was a different type of policy than what the client thought. So I want to make sure that we know what you have and that you get a second set of eyes on that so that I can make the best recommendation. In fact, you may not even need any coverage, any additional coverage. You might be perfectly fine. So why don't we go ahead and look at that one before we proceed, and because you certainly don't need to buy more than you need, and I certainly don't want to sell you more than you need, and we're going to make a good proposal based on your entire family and your situation with what you currently have in place. So let's go get that one and review it. So let's go assume, right? You're acknowledging, you're addressing, and then you're assuming that statement. So you're moving forward without asking permission.
The thing I'm encouraged by, and I really want to encourage the listeners, is to do the homework. And I know life is busy, and you're saying that to yourself. You are standing at your own door.
Yeah, saying I'm busy.
I'm busy right now. But to take 15, 20 minutes on an off day and to write out the logic behind some of these statements would do you a world of good. And to take that out into the field with you, or even to pull over after you received one of these and failed, you need to fail. It's okay. It's going to happen. Just write down what they said and the logic behind it that you missed or you didn't address, because this will make you better. It will make you better. So did you acknowledge, did you address, and did you assume? That is those three spaces. When you go up and you hear it, do you freak out a little bit? That's a signal to you that you need to do more homework. You weren't prepared.
Or pre-work.
Yeah, you were not prepared for that conversation. So if you're like, oh, and you're going to get weird ones, but it's all the same. I've got 30 ferrets in my house right now, and they're going crazy. Mrs. Smith, first of all, congratulations on 30 ferrets. I don't know how you pulled that off. Tell you what, I know this information's important to you because you want those ferrets taken care of. Why don't we sit out here? I'll go grab my stuff. I'll be right back.
Because I don't want to be eaten by the ferrets.
Like, it doesn't matter. Just it's being prepared, having the right mindset about what you believe about time and your time and their time, and continuing to move forward.
Final thought that I would like to leave listeners with is that you have to understand that this is a very big benefit for every family that you sit with. And your belief in what this is going to do for your clients will dictate your confidence and your desire to be great at handling these most common objections, these most common deflections, these most common stalls. Because if you are not convicted, if you don't have the conviction and the passion about what you do and the belief of the benefit that it will provide families, it's going to come out in how you apply yourself to your craft. Are you a practitioner of your craft?
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. For Cliff Notes, resources, that homework sheet Chris talked about, and some of the books we reference, visit liapodcast.org/EP28. That's liapodcast.org/EP28. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Severo. This episode was produced by Chris Ball and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll catch you on another episode, including next week's, where we will have a great special guest, an author, Susan Scott, who her book will be in the show notes if you want to pick that up and read it before next episode. And we are so excited for that. See you in episode 29 or a different one. Until then, stay safe and go be a difference maker.